Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do part 2 to the story I covered earlier, all about the young soldier who got involved with the absolutely wrong possible gal to get into a relationship with. And he obviously found out what she was claiming as her very high body count and the type of guy she used to have relations with. And he was definitely getting pee-whipped by her, and she was going out in skimpy outfits, gone all the time on the weekends and nights, disrespecting him, blah, blah, blah. And a real low point. And we're going to continue on where things go with her, and eventually our guy gets a turnaround and real wake-up call that we can be proud of. And as you recall in the first part, by the end of the video, my hand was pretty sore from smacking him so much, and I'm sure you guys' hands are tired from smacking him, wherever you are listening to this video. And there'll be more smacks, but our guy is going to learn. And that's why I do these videos and share these stories that you guys are brave enough to send in. I respect all you guys for having the balls to send these things in to help out other guys out there. So, Kit continues. He says, October 2021, Halloween, we decided to go back to my hometown where Maya attended college to watch her friends, who were still attending school, perform the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I can only describe as the worst thing I've ever seen. I've always thought that whole thing was just ridiculous and garbage and all that. I know there are a lot of Rocky Horror, cult members out there that love it and everything, but I just never got it. I thought it was most ridiculous. Which I only describe as the worst thing I've ever seen. Maya had shadow casted it in college every year, and we never seen it together. We got a hotel for 2 nights and tickets to the show and made plans to meet up with her friends. If you're wondering where my friends are in all this mess, the answer is almost all of them had moved away at that point. My 3 closest friends all live in completely different states, and I'm introverted, so I guess I never really made new ones. Anyway, we're in the car on the 2-hour drive, and about 30 minutes into the trip, she says, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to go hang out with my friend Derek on Saturday." Enter Derek, because I'm sure Derek has entered her more than once. See all this disrespect and the things she throws at him because she doesn't respect him. She knows he's weak. She wants to go hang out with some guy that she was going to be hanging out with this guy. She's going to be hanging out with her boyfriend that weekend, but no, she's going to go hang out with Derek. I paused and asked, "Who's Derek?" And she explained he was a friend from college. I said, "Great, I'd love to meet Derek." Then she paused for what seemed like an eternity. She says, "I was hoping to hang out with Derek one-on-one. I haven't seen him in forever." I told her, "Absolutely not. We are dating. We are going to hang out in town together. You're not going to go hang out with a guy friend one-on-one." I should also mention she last mentioned that her and Derek had hooked up many times in the past. What'd I just say? We didn't discuss it again for the rest of the drive. Well, thank the Lord you're finally growing a pair. It's about time, Amanda. It's in you. You have it in you. It's like these guys, it never ceases to amaze me. It's like, you stand up to her. You put her in her place. You lay out boundaries. What's the worst that can happen? She breaks up with you? Well, usually that's a good thing, right? Once we got back into town and checked into the hotel, I went to get some drinks pre-game. One of the things me and Maya had done a lot in the past was to ice each other, where one person gets a smear of ice, and when it's presented, you have to chug it. Just a dumb drinking game. I grabbed 2 bottles, some other stuff, and went back to the hotel. Part of icing someone is filming it, so I had a Snapchat open and handed her the ice. She pretended not to see me for a few seconds, then turned and said, "Get that camera out of my face." Bro, that's stupid childish shit. Come on. I know you know better now, but Jesus Christ. This put me in a terrible mood, on top of being pissed off knowing she was going to try and hang out with an old fling alone the next day. Reluctantly, I went to the show, had a terrible time, but held my tongue. And afterwards, we all made plans to go on a bar hop. As we pulled to the parking garage, I stopped her before we could get out. I told her we needed to break up, that I couldn't take this disrespect anymore or her lack of interest in me. Wow, 2 for 2 in one day. This is great. Maya said nothing, but she did cry. A lot. Hobag Handbook, Chapter 3. Yes, exactly. You're learning. Of course. She doesn't care about you, love you, respect you, but, I'm sure you're going to help with paying the bills in the apartment, amongst many other things, and you're, the stable one once she gets to have fun with Chad and Tyrone and Derek. For the next few minutes, she cried, then texted one of her friends, who came back to my car and walked with her to the bar. They went on the bar hop without me, and at the end of the night, we stayed in the hotel together, facing opposite directions. I got up in the morning and headed 2 hours back to our apartment without saying goodbye. Thank the Lord. Well, I'm sure good old Derek was more than happy to comfort her during her time of need. Now, at this point, you'd assume I would start making plans to move out and move on with my life. Yes. But this is the dangerous part about your life falling apart and relying on a woman. Codependency is a serious problem for lots of blue pills out there, and I know for a fact I was the bluest of them all. I couldn't bring myself to move out. Smack! Dude, I was getting very proud of you. And then you pull this shit. And now she knows, you can threaten her, you can break up with her, and all she has to do is cry and all that, and you'll take her back. Which means you're going to get even worse treatment from her. I didn't take the initiative to get out of there. I just continued to work, stay in the guest room, and try to ignore Maya while we cohabited. Oh, I'm sure that was a joyous experience. We both agreed if we were going to see other people, they weren't welcome in our apartment, we'd have to go elsewhere. After a few weeks, I installed Tinder and had a one-night stand with a gal I met on there. Smack! Tinder is a goddamn fucking cesspool, dude. Well, so's your girlfriend. Which made me feel sick to my stomach. I told her I didn't want anything serious and uninstalled the app. Well, you learned. Fast forward to New Year's Eve, Maya had plans to go see her family up north, but when they all got COVID, she ended up staying at our place, which led us to talking a lot, watching the ball drop, and then making the terrible mistake of hooking up. Smack! This girl just can't go 5 minutes without some sausage in her. On January 1st, 2022, she pretended like she didn't even know me. It was basically back to our old respective corners again, and let me tell you, that made everything 1,000 times worse. I was gutted about it. I felt like I couldn't move on. I kept dwelling on the better times from the very beginning of our relationship, all the way she'd been supportive and awesome. Dude, that was then. This is now. This is the problem a lot of guys have. They'll think their relationship is falling apart, either because it just did for various reasons or her true colors are coming out, but then they focus on all the good times in the beginning when it was magical and all that bullshit. And either she was putting on a big giant act, or it was the honeymoon period where everything was new and exciting, all that, and not understanding the fact that obviously, either this is the real her, and you were fooled, or simply her feelings changed. And since women, generally speaking, are driven by their emotions, they have motion CPU, then it can go like that. And literally, they could be in love with you one day, and the next fucking week, they can hit your goddamn guts and feel that, keyword feel. So you can't focus on what happened last week or last month or last year. It's all about right in the moment for the girl, and it's fucked up. I tried to ignore the gargantuan mountain of red flags I saw on her. She was in no way girlfriend or wife material, and I still wanted to try again. Maya thankfully kept turning me down, but I asked if we could feel things out several times. Smack! That is why you should have slept with her. She knew it. She knew, once I give him a little pussy, he'll be back. With a freaking, panhandling from her pussy. Now on to the worst part of this entire story. Dude. In February 2022, she and I started to get along better. We talked, exited peacefully, and even ate dinner together sometimes. I was starting to get to the point where I wanted to move out and forget about her. I guess I just needed time to figure out myself. But then one day, she comes home from work, knocks on my door, and says, "Hey, I'm having a really good day. Want to go out? You coming?" I said, "Sure," and boy, I wish I didn't. I did preface the night by saying, "I will not go out with you if you're going to hit on other people. We're either going out together or I'm not going at all." And I very clearly remember her agreeing to it. I reiterated again, and that if she wanted to go home with a guy or flirt with anyone, I was out, and to uninvite me, she still insisted I go. Of course. Again, testing to see, how is this guy still in love with me? Can I still get this? Can I literally say jump, and he says how high? And of course, you're willing to jump out and go out with her, because of course you haven't moved out yet. And I get it's difficult, breaking a lease and all that. And you don't want to get your credit screwed up or anything like that, but still. Want to go out? Okay. And then you giving these terms out there, and she's probably like, yeah, okay, I won't hit on somebody. What are you going to do about it? Leave me? Yeah, we've been through that song and dance before. Guys, say what you mean and mean what you say. So if you want her to do something and she does it, then you back up what you say you're going to do. So off to the club we went. Oh, the club. Nothing good happens at the club. By the way, I now avoid the entire lifestyle like the plague. Once inside, it took about 5 minutes for her to break her promise. Bro, I saw this coming a mile away. I'm sure tens of thousands of dudes hearing this story saw that a mile away. But you didn't see it coming a mile away. She had a group of college guys, looked at me and said, "Don't stand too close to me. I want to see if these guys will buy me a drink." I reminded her of our agreement, but she didn't seem to care. Because she didn't care. She's fucking with you. I backed up a bit, but the guys ignored her. I was kind of smug about it, not gonna lie. Then we hit the dance floor. Why the fuck are you still there? She was already breaking her thing. Don't stand too close to me about the guys. Bro, there's a point when guys deserve, I don't say deserve, but they have it coming for the crap that the girls do to them. Well, then we hit the dance floor. I'm a musician, but I'm a terrible dancer. And she told me I was stepping on her feet. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to the bar. She followed me and we went and we did some shots. And she asked me why I was in a bad mood. She knows exactly why you're in a bad mood. She's fucking with you. Absolutely. Remember I tell you guys, that women, when they get so disgusted by a man's weakness, they will deliberately say and do things to punish him for being a weak bitch. And fuck with him. I really didn't have the words to explain. I felt like it was pretty obvious, but she drove us there. So I was stuck for the night. Dude, you ever hear of Uber or Lyft or taxi cab or calling somebody? Better than staying with her, take the bus. I told her I had to use the restroom and excuse myself. There was a line, so I waited. While I waited, Maya texted me and asked if I wanted to leave, which I should have agreed to, but I said, no, we're already here, let's just have fun. Yeah, you're calling all this fun, bro? The line took about 15 minutes. Once I finished up, I returned to the bar to find she was gone. Shocker. I glanced around the dance floor and saw what would end up being the breaking point in my descent into the RP world. Maya was there in the corner with a guy pressed up against the wall with his hand on her ass and their nose and lips touching. It looked pretty intimate. I don't think he was whispering the Lord's Prayer or the Ten Commandments to her. They were making out. I knew all about this gal. I shouldn't have been surprised. I shouldn't even have been angry. I should have just walked out. Yeah. Instead, I went through every stage of grief in about 10 seconds before I walked up and cracked the guy in the face. Dude, that guy probably didn't even know you're with a girl. Actually, you guys weren't together. You're going to go punch him? You're that guy. You just gave her drama. In doing so, I knocked Maya over by accident. And the bouncer delivered a pretty solid punch in the back of my head and knocked me unconscious. I woke up on the sidewalk 20-degree weather in a t-shirt. Thankfully, Maya's car was parked nearby and the door was unlocked. My hoodie was inside, but she was still in the club with the key. I put on my hoodie and tried to get an Uber. Oh, so you can get Uber where you are. But my phone died before I could finish ordering it. Dude, you're a fucking mess. I sat there and wallowed in self-pity. I shivered, cussed, cried, and punched my fist into the dash. I imagined that what I had just seen was what had probably happened every time she went out with friends without me. Probably a whole lot worse had been going on, but seeing with my own just sent me over the edge. I don't know how long I was out there, but eventually Maya came outside, escorted by 2 people, a guy and a girl. Yeah, I can see how much she cares about you. How much suffering do you have to go through before you wake up? No, I don't feel bad for past you. And I'm sure you don't feel bad for past you either at this point. But if all this shit you went through and all this fucking up is what got you to finally wake up to reality and get you where you are today, I guess you had to go through it. But it's amazing all the suffering guys put them through. And it really boils down to, gentlemen, I'm going to take a moment here, to your own self-worth. When guys think they're shit and not worth anything, they will accept all this stuff. And we can go about the codependent stuff back and forth, but really, it really boils down to that. They have no self-respect. This is why I work so hard to push that guys do everything they can to build themselves up to the best they can be. Because when they're doing that, they're feeling good, and nobody's going to treat them this way. People could try to treat them this way, but they'll quickly kick them out of their lives. Anyway, she was sobbing, and when she saw me, she tried to sprint over to me with her arms outstretched. The guy put his arm up and stopped her, and the girl glared at me and said, "We're taking her home. I suggest you find somewhere else to sleep." I angrily shot back, "We live in the same apartment. You can below me." Neither of them responded, but they shoved Maya into the back of her own car and left, leaving me stranded in downtown, about 7 miles from my own apartment, with a dead phone in the freezing cold, so I walked back. You're a military guy, you can hack it. When I returned, there were deputies outside my place. Aha! Maya's sister had driven an hour to pick her up, and the deputies, I guess, were there as reassurance that I wasn't going to do anything stupid. You mean like what you just did earlier? What I would find out later is that Maya told her entire family and her friends that I punched her in the face. Luckily, I was able to talk the deputies down, and they left. Maya and her sister left, and I laid awake in my bed all night hating life. Bro, I'm sorry you went through a lot of suffering, but you brought pretty much all that shit on yourself. Okay? She's an a-hole, but you enabled her behavior over and over and over and over again. The next day was rough. I was furious and distraught. I texted Maya and told her what she did was really effed up and that I didn't want to see her ever again. We've all heard that song and dance before, and she's heard that song and dance before, and she's probably like, ah ha ha ha. I asked why the hell she would invite me out and agree to my terms and break them in a span of 30 minutes. More gaslighting. To fuck with you. Girls don't need video games, they have guys to fuck with for entertainment. I don't remember what was said to her, but she ended up calling me. I somehow either heard something I said wrong or just made it up in her head that I was going to off myself. I never said anything such like that to her, and she had her mom call the cops while she was on the phone with me. I eventually hung up, packed my bags, and walked out to my car. I forgot to mention earlier I had gotten a job back in my hometown already, and that job had a workers' barracks for me to stay in, so I was going to head over there. Outside, I was immediately greeted by 8 cops. 2 of them pointed AR-15s at me and asked my name. I calmly put my hands up and told them who I was and was tackled to the ground with their rifles pointed at my face. They swept my belt line and took my concealed carry pistol, placed me in handcuffs, and put me in the back of a squad car. Well, clearly you're never going to forget Maya. We're not ever going to forget Maya. In fact, I'm going to avoid every chick ever in my life named Maya from this point of the story. Once I was alone with one of the officers, I asked what the fuck was going on, and he told me, your girlfriend's mom called us and said you wanted to hurt her or yourself. I rolled my eyes at him and told him this was BS and I had a job to get back to. He told me he had no choice and had to bring me to the hospital. I spent the next 10 hours handcuffed to a gurney, convincing a doctor that I was no threat to myself or anyone else. I was charged $9,000 for the pleasure of being abducted and interrogated. They let me go around 7 p.m. I was 8 miles from home and knew no one in this town I was living in. Luckily, my best friend from infantry, OSUT, was stationed pretty close, and I called him before I left the hospital. That guy drove an hour and a half just to get my pistol back from the police and drive me home. Our friendship definitely got stronger after that. I owe him a lot for doing that. You're darn right, my man. You owe this guy a 6-pack every time you see him. Holy freaking shit. So I'd love to say that was the end, but it isn't. I suffered a lot in my own head for a long time. I got on Tinder again, started drinking heavily, slept around a lot. I met some pretty cool girls that year. Are you sure about that? And ruined every chance of starting a healthy relationship with any of them because of how messed up I was about what had happened. And the worst part is, I eventually talked to Maya again. Smack! And we hooked up a few times in 2022. Smack! She was only doing that to see, can I get him? Can I get him? Can I get this dumb motherfucker to, hook up with me? Because sex is nothing to her. The last time I spoke to her was sometime middle of last year. She's blocked on every platform. Good. Let's keep her blocked. And keep her out of South Florida. I want any Mayas around where I live. A few weeks after the club incident, a friend of mine recommended a book called The Game by Neil Strauss. He told me it was about how to be a pickup artist, although it was a little out of date. Yeah, well, basic fundamentals never change. I told him I really had no interest in that, but he insisted I read it. This was my very first introduction to RP. In part of the story, Strauss talked about how he and his pickup artist friends were sleeping with so many married women. They started to realize that none of them could be trusted. So sad. Out of the whole book, that's the part that really stuck out to me. Chad and Tyrone really do know what they are doing. I don't claim to be one. I did dabble in that lifestyle a bit after Maya, but it's a really hollow and empty way to live your life. At some point, I found your channel. Well, thank God for that. You needed me. And shared it with my friend who recommended the book to me. We're now avid watchers of all 3 of your channels. I gotta say, SSM, your content saved me from going down a really deep dark hole. Brother, my pleasure. I'm glad to help you. And a shout out to your bro that you brought onto this channel. You need it. You need my channel. You need other channels. You need books. And I know this is all recent and you still have ways to go. And before we wrap this up, I'm going to say this, by the way, while I'm thinking about it. I guarantee you, one of these days, some way, somehow, Maya is going to try to reach out to you. And so help me God, if you respond to her, talk to her, and even sleep with her, I'm going to find you and do something I can't say here on YouTube. And you all can figure out what I'm going to say. God Almighty. It will happen. You will be tested. And you better not fucking fail that test. He says here, Maya destroyed all my trusted women forever, and the stories you share help me feel solidarity. I probably watched a dozen of them a day, if not more, and still listen to at least one of your videos a day to remind myself of reality of the world we live in. Yeah, watch a video a day on your way to work or whatever. It'll help you. It says, learning about RP and recovering from being a pathetic blue pill simp, I found God again. Enrolled in college, been promoted in the Army, and gotten back to the gym. Wonderful. Look at all this, what happens when a guy makes his purpose and improving himself his priority, not some pussy, and not some piece of garbage attached to that pussy. I started taking PT seriously, and I'm now deployable and just re-enlisted again. I went to therapy for a whole year and was very lucky to have a good therapist who didn't try to convince me that I did anything wrong. Well, thank God for that. I'm pleased to say that I'm doing very well. I'm very healthy, I drink less, I don't use Tinder, good. And I approach any form of relationship with women with extreme caution. If I ever date again, it will be with someone who shares all my values, and the vetting process will be extremely long and thorough. If she's worth my time, she will understand. Gentlemen, the blue pill leads to nothing but pain and suffering. Yes, exactly. Spread SSM's channel, keep track of your boys, don't ever let yourself or one of your friends or close family members make the mistakes I and many other men have made. He says, as an addendum, I forgot to talk about the other women before. I've had a long history of meeting the bad ones. There's a freaking surprise. My first girl ever, when I was 15, had a side boyfriend that she had SCX with. She never took my virginity. I dumped her, and then she asked for a second chance a few months later when Chad got tired of her, and I said no. The girl took my virginity years later, got bored of me, then rode the carousel. The last I heard, she was in a poly relationship. Poly relationships aren't relationships. With a married couple who have children. And has a side boyfriend too. Does OnlyFans, and her body count is over 250. Disgusting. Later on, I dated a gal for 2 years. I caught her talking to a guy she had met before we talked together 3 times. She used to excuse every time I block him, he makes a new account. And yet she was still talking to him. On the 3rd strike, I broke up with her. My parents kicked me out and let her stay. My parents kicked me out and let her stay in the basement apartment. I ended up homeless because of that. Anyway, want to make a good on that part of the story. There's plenty more, but not worth mentioning like those 3. Well, bro, I'm glad it ended on a high note that after all that crap, you're finally gonna do us a reality. Reading that book and finding my channel. I'm sure there's other channels you watch. And yeah, and it's good you were watching tons of videos a day to hear these stories over and over again. And I'm sure it was hard hearing these stories and then connecting the dots saying, holy shit, I did that or I did that. It's hard, but it's a tough pill to swallow, the reality. You fucked up a whole lot. God almighty, my hands are sore. I won't be able to smack anybody for at least a week after all this. But you know what? Yeah, if that's what it took, the suffering you went through and making a fool of yourself so many times to get where you are, then so be it. You learned. I don't know how old you are, but I'm guessing probably you're certainly maybe at best in your 30s at this point. I don't know. But you learned a lot. And so good for you. And I absolutely wish you the best. But, bro, it boils down to this. Self-esteem, self-worth. And some people say, SSM, that's easy for you to say. Well, no, it's not. Because there were a big chunk of my life from like when I was a little kid, teenage, 20s, even some parts of my early 30s, I had definite issues of self-esteem. And it causes you to have people in your life that treat you like dog crap because you think that's all you're worth. And you don't stand up for yourself, or if you have issues where you can't be alone and stuff like that, it's far better to be alone or have just a couple good friends you have your back than to have people like that in your life take advantage of you. And we've learned through this story, especially women. Women do not respect guys that are weak and have no self-esteem and that let them pull bullshit. You just kept taking her back and taking her back and taking her back. Literally, like, it's like you were Charlie Brown with Lucy with the football. If you guys know what I'm talking about there, Lucy would hold the football and convince Charlie Brown to run up and kick it. And he's like, no, you're going to pull that thing away from me. No, I'm not. Come on, come on. And then finally, the dumbass would run over, kick the ball, and she'd pull it away and fall on his ass. That's like you with every time this girl was trying to get you to, come on, let's go out and do something, and you're thinking things are going to get better, and she pulled the fucking football away, and you fall on your ass. You had to learn. Just like Charlie Brown. Well, I don't know if Charlie Brown ever learned. But anyhow, bro, crazy story, but I'm glad you're doing well. And like I said about 10 minutes ago, mark my words, one day she's going to reach out to you, even if it means showing up at your freaking house. You need to avoid her like the plague. Do not have anything to do with her, because the universe wants to test us all the time, than just women that test us, to see if we learned anything. And if she reaches out to you and you block her or tell her to F off or something, or better yet, you reach a point that you're so indifferent that you don't have to tell her to F off, because just, you kind of laugh it off. There's no anger, there's nothing. Then you've really moved on. But if she reaches out to you and you pretty much tell her, to take a hike, and you don't really care either way, you've moved on, you've learned. But if you give into it, then you haven't learned. And there could be other gals that are going to be like her down the road, because you see you have a history of attracting girls like this. So be very, very careful, So I hope you learned something. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. I know you're going to comment down below. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.